everyone, and welcome to Builder Nation, where your favorite engineers share their tips and tricks in the industry. I'm Elisa, and I get to speak with really cool engineering leaders creating real change within their fascinating companies. Today, as part of our Female Power Initiative, where we get to know inspiring women in the industry, I have the pleasure to speak with Olya Royall, engineering manager at DroneDeploy, a cloud software platform for commercial drones. Hi, Olya, and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And let me give you a little bit of context, guys. Olya has 4 years working teams to drive product usage and growth. And basically, we're going to talk about your professional background, Olya, your experience as a woman in the industry, some challenges, some role differences, anything that you can share. But Olya, since we have you here, we have a lot of questions, and I'm super excited to get to know you. So I want you to tell me what is being a software engineer all about? If you can tell us a little bit of your experience, when did you start in this industry?
I'll take it back a little bit because I have over a decade of experience in a non-engineering role. I didn't have sort of a traditional career path. I have spent most of my career working in some various sales, business development, and operational roles. And then I ventured into biotech briefly, and I decided it wasn't the right path for me. I pivoted into software engineering in 2016. I went to a dev boot camp, and we gathered sort of a team of close classmates and started getting into hackathons and just building up portfolio and developer skills. And then I landed a job at DroneDeploy in April 2017, where it just felt like the right fit. You know, I never had experienced sort of the state of flow as I did when I first started working as an engineer. It's one of the most frustrating things to be an engineer. Sometimes you're trying to solve a problem and you're sitting there and you're just beating your head against the wall, and then it's suddenly things click, and it's like a very high highs and low lows when you're trying to figure something out. But it's very exciting, and I really enjoy working as an engineer, as an individual contributor. Initially, it just felt like the time would pass by so fast. You're solving interesting problems, you're trying to make something work. It's a very creative endeavor in some ways. So I really enjoyed it.
And I mean, I have to tell you, I did a little bit of research in your past experience, and I did see a lot of recommendations from your past teams saying like, Olya is such a big leader, and Olya knows how to lead the teams and how to work correctly and how to motivate people. And how do you feel being the leader in the industry?
I still have a bit of an imposter syndrome. You know, I am a senior engineering manager now, and I manage 2 teams. I manage the growth team, which our mission is to help expand existing customer base and drive monthly active users and basically just drive general user engagement. And now I also manage another team that's in charge of internationalization. We're actually expanding into Spanish and Portuguese. So pretty exciting, but a completely new greenfield project. So it's been a really interesting experience because I got to build both teams basically from the ground up. I went from managing 4 people to currently managing 12 people, and some of them are located in Poland. I have a QA engineer who's in the Netherlands, and then the rest of the team is spread across the United States. So it's a very interesting challenge being a remote manager and trying to do only remote activities and figuring out ways to communicate across different time zones and kind of build trust and lead the teams. But we have a lot of support at DroneDeploy because initially when you become manager, you have to go through like a series of management leadership training that spans everything from how to properly coach people, how to have good one-on-ones, how to interview people, how to do feedback, all of those really essential skills. In general, this topic of psychology and leadership and organization and how to build good processes in engineering is really interesting to me. So I read a lot on my own. There's a bunch of publications, but the most valuable ones that I found are from First Round Review, Software Lead Weekly, Harvard Business Review, and then there's this kind of like cliff notes for business books called Blinkist. You need to figure out how to communicate what others need to do in such a way that makes sense to everyone, and how to delegate some of these things, and how to switch your mind shift from thinking, oh, I'm just putting off work to somebody else, to no, I'm actually providing opportunities for leadership and growth to others by delegating some of these tasks so that I could focus on a larger picture and bigger, sort of more longer term initiatives. The key, I think, is building psychological safety and trust. I believe in leadership by example and enabling my team by providing appropriate tools and frameworks and opportunities to them. Give people the knowledge of why they're working towards something, like why are we building something? The business context, I think, empowers them very much to be able to do the best work that they can, because they know why they're building something and how it helps the company to grow, and then how it affects them. If they're just building stuff for the sake of building stuff, it's really hard to keep motivated. If you don't know why you're doing something, you don't have much of a purpose.
Totally, it makes total sense to me. I mean, making sure that you know the why are you doing what you're doing, how you're doing it, and especially, building the trust within your team sounds really, really important. The key to a successful team. Now, when it comes to being a woman and to being a directive role and having to handle teams, you started having like 5 people, and now you have 12 people, and you're working with different sides of the organization. What do you feel that it's the biggest challenge for you being a woman in the industry?
At DroneDeploy, I haven't felt like it's a challenge, but I am one of the few women engineers, and I'm the only engineering manager who's a woman. But I don't find it as challenging. I feel like we have a diverse enough background on a lot of the team members. I don't feel excluded, let's say. I did earlier on, when I was trying to kind of push through to the leadership role and kind of grow in my individual contributor role, have gotten some pushback, and a few individuals have expressed concern of me not being technical enough, which kind of cut me pretty deep. But the majority of my engineering team has recognized that I do have good problem solving skills and technical skills, and trusted me to be the mentor and the tech lead and eventually promote me. So a few of these kinds of sort of like concerns of me not being technical enough have gone away, just because I've proven myself. And maybe this is the challenge. I always feel like I have to prove myself. And it could be my own personal mental challenge, but maybe it's also a bit part of because I feel like I'm not coming from a traditional background in computer science, but in general, overall, I feel like I'm pretty well supported and I don't have to fight an uphill battle.
How do you feel that we can get more women in the industry? And how do you feel that we can make them feel secure?
It's a tough question, that's $1 million question. And how do we get them working in the industry? It's changing the landscape and kind of the type of cultures that you have, and DroneDeploy and is a really good example of a good inclusive and collaborative and supportive culture. Maybe having opportunities at startups that provide support for varying different backgrounds. The research that I've read talks about how a lot of women won't apply for a job, for example, if it has a very specific job description. So if you have like 1,000 different requirements where really only 5 of them are really important, maybe don't put the whole kitchen sink in your job description so that people can feel like they are actually qualified to apply. There's a stark difference between how men apply to jobs and how women apply to jobs, in terms of a lot more underqualified men will apply for a job, whereas women will only apply for a job if they feel like they are exactly qualified for all of the requirements. So only put the requirements that are truly needed on your job descriptions.
Or most of the times it's us who keep like putting these barriers, or creating these barriers, these mental like blocks, instead of just saying like, hey, I'm a woman, I'm capable, I can do it, I can be a manager of a team,
Yeah, engineering is so much more than just problem solving. It's very communication driven, and women are generally pretty good at communicating.
We have talked about women in the industry. You talk about your experience at DroneDeploy. What is your everyday like routine? What is your everyday at the company?
Oh, it's quite different as an engineering manager from when I was an individual contributor, but I have some time in the morning where I do planning and kind of map out what I need to do and prepare for the week. I have a lot of meetings where I'm part of sort of like team discussions, so I could have all of the context and bring it to my team. I try to protect their time as much as possible, because I know that even 15-minute meetings can be a total distraction from your getting into something and trying to solve a problem.
Talking about DroneDeploy, can you share your favorite success story from a company that started using DroneDeploy?
My favorite success story is actually not from a single company, but DroneDeploy has a .org arm where we work with nonprofit organizations, and it's the story that I love is from the disaster relief efforts. My company has helped out during the Camp Fire in 2018, and it was one of the most devastating fires to that date in California, where over 3 days, 16 teams of public safety professionals from various different regions had to complete 500 plus drone flights, and they captured a ton of imagery surrounding the areas that suffered from the fire. I think it was the result was 500 gigabytes of drone data, which DroneDeploy helped process and turn into 15,000 acres of high resolution aerial maps. And it was enabling state agencies and the public to assist in the recovery efforts. It helped search and rescue operations. It assisted the planning and the response for potential mudslides. It helped with relief fund issuance. And it helped a bunch of the people that have lost their homes to process the insurance claims so much faster, because they have photographic and aerial evidence of their houses, which were completely unrecognizable. A lot of that fire is just low visibility. There was trees that were kind of melting together. You couldn't recognize what the street names were anymore. And I'm just really proud to work for a company that enabled such a massive effort. We had to work through the weekend, and the next day we delivered 75 maps. It's like we spun up this whole area, and it was all like stitched together nicely. And you not only had a aerial 2D map view from the top, but there were markers with video footage and 360 footage. I think that was really cool, and one of my favorite stories, and how you could use drones for good.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's something that makes you, just like you said, it makes you feel proud of what you're working on, of your team, you know, like I'm pretty sure those extra hours that you worked on the project, you were like, I'm super tired, but I feel overall, I feel satisfied. I feel proud. I feel thankful of being working for a company that not only helps clients to solve their necessities, but also I'm helping people, just like you said.
My favorite stories are coming from a lot of the nonprofit organizations that we work with. Like I said, emergency response and rescue teams. There's a lot of companies that use DroneDeploy for forest restoration. There's one really interesting one that did mapping of the coral reefs. And it's quite a different challenge than doing ground mapping, but it helps that a lot of the places where you have coral reefs, the water is really clear and still, so you could actually see under the water pretty well.
And something else, I mean, last but not least, I wanted to ask you any advice that you can give to our audience, the engineers, CEOs, managers who are listening to this podcast?
Treat your people that you work with as human beings, and they will treat you back as a human being, and they'll give the best that they can. And trust that they will do the best that they can. That's the only way to work. We can no longer treat people as numbers and employees. I mean, I'm sure it's harder to do at a larger company, but I feel like most successful companies, not even just in engineering, but in general, treat their people well. And in return, they get people that are happy, people that are loyal, and people that are giving as best as they can. You could try to make the most amount of money as fast as you possibly can, but you can't do it without a team. And I don't know if it should be the goal of a company to maximize your profits, like maximize your people and the profits will follow. They may not be, I don't know, like $1 billion less from like your 10 billions that you're making it as a company. Is not going to matter that much if you have a workforce that's happy and continuously supporting you. The longevity of everyone matters more.
Totally. It doesn't matter if you, I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to make any profits if you don't have a great team, or a good team at least, or if they're not happy, if they're not motivated. The amount of work that they will build at the end of the day, it's not going to be the same.
It's not going to be as good, and you're probably going to have lots of turnover. And I think most people realize that the turnover is what kills the companies, because you're constantly having to throw resources at hiring people, training people, and it's difficult, it's expensive.
Thank you so much for this. It's not only one advice, it's like dozens of advices from you, Olya. Thank you so much. We're super happy to have you here and to have the opportunity to talk to you and to learn from you especially. Do you have any social media handles? Where can we find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, like Olya Royall on LinkedIn. So if you want to find me there, that's probably the best way. I check that once in a while, and I tend to respond to people that reach out for advice, or, you know, one of my favorite parts of the job is to help people grow. So, you know, I generally am trying to be responsive to people that are looking for advice, or asking questions, or how they could grow in their career. I'm happy to help.
Oh, thank you so much, Olya. Thank you for your ability. And remember, guys, that you can also find more information, interesting articles, really interesting interviews like this one directly on our website, controlhub.com/builder-nation. So thank you so much for being a part of this community. We'll be seeing each other. We'll be hearing each other soon with more stories to share and exciting guests to introduce. So thank you so much, Olya, for your time. And we're super lucky to have you today.
Thank you so much, Elisa. Appreciate it.